Have you ever wanted to know how to document and delegate what you do so your company can grow beyond you? Well, you're in luck. Today, we have Chris Ronzio, the founder and CEO of Trainual. Welcome to The Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday. And welcome to The Friday Habit. Ben, welcome. You're here as always.
What's going on, Mark?
It's so good to see you. Hey, I'm excited to talk to our guest today because you and I have been talking about systems, processes, and org charts and all these other kind of things. And we have a guy who is into those things. And so his name is Chris Ronzio. If you haven't heard of Trainual, well, you'll know about it by the end of this. But he is the founder and CEO of Trainual. It's a leading SaaS platform that transforms the way small businesses onboard, train, and scale their teams. Chris is the host of the fastest growing companies and Organized Chaos. Those are two podcasts that he hosts, as well as the author of the best-selling book, The Business Playbook. So welcome, Chris, to The Friday Habit.
Thanks, Mark. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. I must sound like the biggest nerd that you thought, let's talk org charts. Who's that guy?
That makes me happy, though. I am a big nerd. So, yeah, that sounds really fun to me.
Awesome. Well, then let's do it.
Well, hey, I got a quick question for you. If you won an unlimited service of any kind for an entire year, what service would most benefit your day-to-day living?
Ooh. My first thought was a masseuse of some kind.
Oh, good.
I just got this massage chair, though, and I finally caved and got one of those massage chairs on Amazon, but they wouldn't take it upstairs to where I wanted it. And so it's in the middle of my living room downstairs. It's the centerpiece of the room when you walk in.
Are you married?
I am, yes.
Your wife's like, get that damn chair out of my living room.
Yeah. And then my 4-year-old climbs in and he's got like bruises on his back. Yeah.
It's just punching him.
Yeah.
Oh man, those are really good. Yeah, I would agree with that. The first thing I thought too was like a foot massage.
Yeah.
Like a year foot massage service every day.
That sounds nice. We have a meditation room here at our office. So it's kind of a relaxation room with like the water sounds and the Himalayan
Essential
salt
oils
rock and all that. And so I think relaxing is an important part of recharging for business. So
totally, 100%. Having that like place where you can kind of go, and it's not often that you're just quiet. You know, it's like you're listening to podcasts, you're watching shows, you're reading emails, you're on the phone, you're texting, whatever it is. And like being present and quiet, sometimes it can be hard to do, which, you know, in the morning, it's like I try to spend a little time meditating. And it's just so funny how just trying to be quiet for like 15 minutes, my brain starts thinking about other stuff. I'm like, no. 15 minutes, that's it.
Yeah.
Just sit here and be quiet.
It seems like the longest hour of the day is with 15 minutes of silence.
Exactly.
when I meditate, I mean, that's where all my good ideas come from, though. I don't try to quiet my mind as much. I just let the ideas flow in, and then I stop meditating, and I write down like 25 things that I just thought of.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. There's a book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's really good. But yeah, he has a whole thing in there about kind of like thinking time.
Oh man, that is such a thoughtful book. It really, well, that's a pun, I guess, but it is actually a very like level-headed book. He talks about how you just don't take every guru's answers for everything, but really be thoughtful about how does it apply to you. And he goes through some really good, even questions to ask yourself for thinking time and like a routine for thinking time. That's been a life-changing book for me for sure.
Awesome. I'll put it on my list. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that value produced right here.
Amazing.
Well, Chris, tell us a little bit for our audience, tell us a little bit about kind of where you're from.
Sure.
And how you got to where you are right now.
So how far back do you want me to go?
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up between Massachusetts Illinois, and North Carolina. So I was born in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, moved to Chicago area when I was 2 years old and spent like the first few years of my childhood there. My dad was in the corporate world, so a business guy, but always on the road, never around. And so to me, as a kid, I knew I wanted to be in business because my dad had like a cool briefcase and a tie, and I thought like I want to be like that. But I didn't want to work on the road and be gone all the time. And, he wasn't at a lot of my games and that sort of thing. So when I was 6 or 7 years old, he and a friend decided to start up a little food brokerage in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we moved there for a 3-year stint, which was a pretty cool experience. Change of environment, didn't know anyone. And I got to see him open this little 10-person office. So spent a few years there. And then we started our round trip back. So we went back to Chicago where he got recruited back. Then we went back to Massachusetts where I spent the rest of my high school and college. So
So then are you a Patriots fan?
I am.
Were you bummed when Brady left? And then were you like a fan of the Buccaneers?
I feel like I was more of a Tom Brady fan because, you saw him emerge kind of behind Bledsoe. It was like this Cinderella story and they follow him. But the Patriots changed so much over the years that their team towards the end of Brady was different than the team at the beginning of Brady. Right. So when he went to the Bucs, it was just kind of cool to see him reunite with Gronkowski and follow that story.
Yeah, I hated, it's like someone who's too successful, you kind of hate them. Because the only person I can think about who I never had ill will towards was like Michael Jordan. It's like he kept winning, but there was just something so awesome about it. Yeah. Brady was almost like Brady, like you won again. It's kind of like Seinfeld with like Newman and Frasier. Yeah. It's like Brady. It's like, but then it was when he left New England and then went to the Bucs and then won the Super Bowl. I was like, all right, like he's the GOAT. Like you can't dispute that. Like you can't say, oh, it's the coach and the team. And it's like, no, dude, he went somewhere else and then won a Super Bowl. It's like, all right, you win, dude. You're the GOAT.
The morning of that last Super Bowl with the Bucs, I was looking up signed Tom Brady jerseys because I figure like, all right, if he wins today, these are just going to go up in value. And so I bought one that morning. He won the Super Bowl. The next day, they were already like up 20%. So
let's go. That's awesome. So you make it back to Mass and you graduate high school. And did you kind of have an entrepreneurial spirit within you at a young age where you're like, all right, I'm going to start mowing lawns, or in Ben's cases, making flyers and business cards for people?
Totally. Yep. I had so many little kid businesses. I think I had 16 business cards before high school. It was like I would open up, Microsoft Paint or whatever it was at the time, and I would get the little race car clip art and type like Chris's car wash, and then print them all out. And so it's not, Ben's nodding. It sounds like Ben did the same thing.
That's exactly.
Yeah. So I had all those businesses. When I was 4 was my first little car wash business because my uncle, he emptied out his pocket. He had $4 bills and he's like, I'll give you this money if you wash my car. And at the time, that was how much it cost to buy a Ninja Turtle action figure, which was my currency in the world. And so I started washing cars. Like all my neighbors would bring their car to our driveway. And then the businesses got a little more sophisticated. I would do like cleaning people's yard furniture at the end of winter, like to get their deck ready for the spring. I did the landscaping business, mulching. I did like selling wrapping paper and selling candy bars, the lemonade stands. So really all the legal businesses that kids can do, I did. and then it got more into tech. So when I think I was 12 or 13, I got one of the early CD burners, and I started asking my friends on the bus to like let me borrow all their CDs, and I would make copies of their CDs, and then I would bring all the copies back on the bus, and I'd sell them, and it was 50% to the person who provided the master copy and 50% to me. And so the first affiliate program. And then, when I was 14, 15, that's when I started my first real business, like that I paid taxes on. It was a video production company. We did youth sporting events, and it started just at my school doing like the soccer games and football games, things like that. And then we started picking up tournaments all over Massachusetts, all over New England, up and down the East Coast. And I ended up running that business for 12 years. So that was where I learned a ton about business.
Wow. So you started at 14 or 15. So you were still doing that 26 or so, 27?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so much of what I do today came from that business because, Trainual all about systems, processes, and SOPs and training. We in that business would find contracts, sports organizations that had tournaments all over the US. And our job was to staff crews of camera operators and sales reps and production managers at all those events, take orders online, and then ship the videos around the world. And so we had to have a really consistent product. And so I didn't know it at the time, but we were remote training and onboarding people around the country that we'd find on Craigslist. And then we were developing processes on how to make that business work.
Wow, that's really interesting. So at what point did you say, all right, I got to figure out a different way to like make money or level up or get out of the sports video production business?
So for me, we were growing a lot. I mean, I finished college in 2008. We grew like 300% through 08, 09, like that whole recession. And what I learned was that memories are pretty recession proof. Like when your child competes in like the state championship, you're going to find the $20 to buy the video, even if things are not so great. And so we kept bringing on events, we kept growing. And to me, the challenge was, how do I totally optimize our process to where parents can, fill out a form on an iPad and buy a video on a website and see a 30-second preview and download the kid's video. And that's what got me going, was the challenge of innovating our process. In the last couple of years, it felt like we weren't innovating as much. We were just adding on more and more events. And I was getting a little looking for something else to do. So at this time, I had joined an entrepreneurship group, like a mastermind type thing. And I was more interested in helping my friends with their businesses than really like doing mine. So what I did was I promoted our director of operations to be president of the company. I took myself off payroll and I stepped out of the business for the next year and started just consulting, dabbling with other businesses, and then ended up selling my video company and creating a full-time kind of little boutique consulting. So that was my next stop.
That's awesome. So it sounds like it was like, okay, this is not exactly challenging me in the way I want anymore. You kind of like, I got some of this figured out. It's pretty streamlined. It's scaling. That's great. But you're like, all right, I want to try a new challenge. And you're kind of more interested in like taking the things you learned and sharing it with other people,
Yeah, I felt like my experience was really narrow. All I had ever really done was this video production business. And I'd learned so much about business. But when I started hearing like what the retail store and the medical office and the graphic design company and all these businesses are dealing with, it was like firing the sparks in my brains, like, oh, I want to solve that problem. So I knew I was getting burnt out with going to all these events and traveling and I was ready for something else.
How did it feel like when you switched that consulting? Did you feel, because, I do a lot of consulting with people with similar businesses too. I don't call it that. I just kind of like hang out with them and give them advice and we work on stuff together. Yeah. I was worried like, okay, if I go into consulting, am I qualified to help these other businesses? Did you struggle with that at all? Or were you like, no, I got this? Or like, how was that like transition of like consulting with other types of companies?
Yeah. So it didn't start as consulting. It kind of started as me volunteering to just go in and help people. And then I would spend a day with someone's company and it was like my friends were saying, I feel like I have to pay you for this. Like you're doing so much around here. Like, what is your rate? And I'm just like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
$1 million.
Yeah, totally. There was definitely that fear of like the imposter syndrome kind of thing. Like, do I even know what I'm doing? And you think a lot of people say they're a consultant and that means they're unemployed. So I was like, how do I actually make this a business? How do I work with real companies? And so rather than just doing ad hoc kind of little projects and hourly things, I focused on doing retainer projects where people would pay me so much a month for like a 6-month deal or a 12-month deal, and I would really get deep in their business. And so to me, I was just cobbling together a bunch of different industries and companies and making more than I had previously made in my video business. It was a great way to bridge the gap.
Now, when you were doing that, would you kind of take one thing on at a time and then just really focus on that and then find the next thing, take that on? Or were you spinning multiple plates at a time when you're doing the consulting?
At the beginning, it was a lot of just random project management, trying to figure out like what do they need done, and I would roll my sleeves up and help do it. It was kind of like I was a fractional manager or COO or something, where the owner of the business had whatever they were working on, and then they had this backlog of stuff that they wish they could get done, but they didn't have anyone that could oversee it and see it to the finish line.
Right.
And so I would come in and get the extra stuff done. So after doing that for a year and a half or so, I started to look at what is the consistent thing I'm doing for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I was hearing a lot about productizing services at that point. And so I came up with a package for all the new clients that I would work with, and I called it the Organized Chaos Package. That was the name of my business. So that's where the podcast name came from.
Cool.
And so I had two packages. I had a 1-day package and a 3-day package where I would work with companies to get myself oriented to their business. So I was like onboarding myself as quickly as possible to know everything I needed to know. And that involved their org chart, their roles and responsibilities. It was like a huge intake process to understand the business model, all the people. And then I would go through and do these interviews with all their people to understand what's broken, like what needs work around here, what are the suggestions people are making, what are the ideas that people have. And I would collect all that and look for the common denominators, the stuff that like 5 people are saying, why aren't we doing this? And then the last piece was prioritizing that and deciding what are we going to work on. So these intake projects were exactly the same every time. There was a formula to it, so I could churn through them. I could hire people to help me with them. And then it created a menu of stuff that we could sell the retainer packages for. And that was the whole model for my consulting business.
Man, that sounds like so much fun to be able to just like dive into a business and do that. Like, so my company does website design. It's called Knapsack, and we're very productized when it comes to that kind of stuff. We have like 1-day, 2-day, 3-day packages where we'll do like live design with people, and we've got strategy session built in ahead of time. There's a whole like system to it. But one thing I really love about it is in those initial discovery meetings is wrapping your mind around a new business in like 30 minutes. Like, how do you digest that super quickly? That just sounds like so much fun, getting to go in there and actually help the business even more though than just like building a website for them, getting in there and be like, what are the real problems and how do we like solve those? That sounds really rewarding.
Yeah, it was so fun. And so in the entirety of my 5 years of the consulting business, I worked with 150 different companies in like dozens and dozens of industries. I got exposure to so many cool ideas that like, oh, here's what they're doing in a plumbing company that could apply to this restaurant or here, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just such great exposure. But it also was, again, foundational to Trainual, because so much of onboarding myself to their companies was understanding like, what do you need to know to get up and running? And that's what you would need to teach anyone to get up and running in their business.
All right, we're going to pause this conversation here. Go to thefridayhabit.com. There you can find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. At the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System that will show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of in your business. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear next week's episode, subscribe so you get notified. Also, leave us a review in Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to potentially be on one of our episodes with a question you ask us, go ahead and record a quick message in your phone, voice memo, and email it to hello@thefridayhabit.com. Until next time, live every day like it's Friday.